What is up guys, it's your boy Soul. I'm here, back with another Classic WoW video for Season of Discovery. Now, I haven't been trying to not talk about too many data mining things about Season of Discovery. I kind of want to go in without knowing too much, but at the same time I have been looking at items, I have been looking at all the runes, because I don't really think they are game-breaking by any means. We still have to discover so many things in a season, but this one is really important. There's been some data mining happening, a bunch of runes have been changed, some classes have been really buffed, or some classes and specs have been really buffed, and some of them have been really nerfed. So a bunch of class changes coming up, which are really important to know about when making a decision on which class to play. A bunch of the runes that we talked about in the past and that I have also shown in my videos, they still work the same, but the numbers have been tweaked, so they either deal more damage, less damage, last for longer, the cooldowns and so on. A bunch of changes basically that we're talking about today, talking about all the class changes, and there's a bunch of them. And I actually have a class picking guide coming up tomorrow, so knowing about the class changes before watching that one could be really important. Because let's just say you pick a hunter for the 25% damage when you don't have a pet. That has been changed now. I think it's 10 or 15%. Either way, let's read through the entire thing. There's a bunch of changes here, so just sit back, grab some snacks or something, and let's read through it together. So patch 1.15 build 52212 PTR data mining, Season of Discovery rune changes. We're going to go through every single class here. In the most recent build for the public test realm of Season of Discovery, we have data mined some rune changes. Some of the most notable being adjustments are to tank runes, reducing the passive bonus, threat regain for shamans and warlock tanks. That is number one, but a bunch of things have been changed, like look at druid here. First of all, for the general, you have spells, engraved gloves, wild growth. This one has kind of been buffed, and as you can see right here, heals all of the target player's party members within, it used to be 415, now it's 40 yards instead of 15, and it also changed the multiplier from 14 to 34. This one seems to be a buff, that is really cool. Then we have Skull Bash in this case, so this one shares a cooldown with Feral Charge, whereas in the past it didn't. That one kind of makes sense, so now it's more for Cat instead of Bear, because as Bear you still have Feral Charge, in this case you have Skull Bash. Also, yeah, once again, Skull Bash has also obviously been changed, the spell itself shares a cooldown with Feral Charge. Wild Growth, once again, same thing here, so like literally the two same things, Skull Bash and Wild Growth. Going down, you can see also cost change from 23% of base mana to 28% of base mana. That one isn't really like big by any means, it's a 5% increase, but that is base mana. Your mana at level 60, it's not going to cost 28% of all of your mana, it's base mana. Then you have intellect, which increases mana even further, so it's probably going to cost you about 5% of your total mana, if even that. So this change is really small, but otherwise it's been buffed for the most part. Then we have hunters. So first of all, actually there's only one thing here, or two things I should say. We have engraved chest, Lone Wolf. This is the one where you don't have a pet, you would gain increased damage, and this one has been significantly nerfed from 25% increased damage to now being 15%. Also for sniper training, this one has also been really nerfed by a lot, making hunters look so much worse now than they used to in the past, but then again, they looked absolutely overpowered. So for this one, your shot abilities gain 10% now, increased critical strike chance while you have not moved for the last 6 seconds. It used to be 30. That is a massive nerf. They took it from 30% to 10%, but then again, 30% you would crit all the time, it would be absolutely insane, so it does make kind of sense. But they went from being insane to being like, it's okay, it's okay. And then we have the mage. For the mage, the most notable one here is rewind time. This one, basically, cooldown has been changed from 1 minute to 30 seconds, so you can use that one even more often than you could in the past. Really good buff right there to mages, but there has been some stealth nerfs to mages in the past, where they're healing for less now than they used to, so if you played in BlizzCon, you're healing for way less now than you used to back then, and also a less portion of your damage dealt through arcane spells will also be healing. Basically, less healing, but now you actually have the rewind time more often, so you can actually get that chunk of healing out, which once again is actually a good buff, but they have also been nerfed by quite a bit in the past. For Paladins, we have quite a few things right here, but actually, they're all in the same, or most of them are the same. So we have Beacon of Light. This one has just been changed from 60 yards to 40 yards, pretty much, that's the only change. And Beacon of Light, so two things at the same time. That is once again range from 60 yards to 40 yards, does make sense. Crusader Strike, an instant strike that causes 75% weapon damage and regenerates 2% mana. Change cooldown from 4 seconds to 6 second cooldown. So slightly more cooldown on Crusader Strike, doesn't really matter too much, I should say. And for Divine Sacrifice, it cannot be used while you're under the effects of Blessing of Protection, Divine Shield or Divine Protection, and prevents you from being targeted by those abilities while it is active. For the Seal of Martyrdom, this one has been incredibly buffed, and let's just talk about this. It used to be so that you fill yourself with Holy Spirit for 30 seconds, causing each of your melee attacks to deal 30% weapon damage up to 3 nearby targets. In this case, it's been nerfed from up to 3 to just 1 target, but you also lose health equal to 10% of all the damage you deal, or the damage inflicted in this case. While the seal is active, your party members within 40 yards each gain mana equal to, used to be 2%, now it's 10% of all damage you take. So it used to be it hit 3 targets, now it only hits 1, but you also take more damage and therefore give more mana back to your teammates. This is really good in a raid scenario. Let's just say you have a Shadow Priest or a Boomkin or even Elemental Shaman or anyone who uses a lot of mana, even Arcane Mages, right? Anyone who uses a lot of mana and needs that mana regen, this one is looking way better now for just overall raid utility and being helpful. That is absolutely fantastic. Also, unleashing this seal's energy will judge an enemy, instantly causing X amount of damage at the cost of health equal to 10%. So basically just gone up from 2% to 10% and only hits 1 target, your current one, instead of 3 nearby targets. So it went from being like an AoE to being single target. Hand of Reckoning, this one basically has been changed a little bit and gives your enhanced target to, let's just go down here actually. Righteous for Fury causes you to gain mana when healed by others equal to 25% of the amount healed. So even if you're playing Prot right now or Protection Paladin, in the past, Protection Paladins used to need to have mana breaks after pretty much every single pull. If you did any dungeons, like Protection Paladins would need mana breaks even more often than the healers. In this case, that might no longer be the case. And then just repeating Seal of Martyrdom once again, same thing. So pretty much Paladins are looking really, really good if you ask me. It's been like kind of nerfed in one essence, but also kind of buffed in one essence. It's dealing less AoE damage, but at the same time you're getting Divine Storm. So if you want to do AoE damage, you definitely can, but the Seal of Martyrdom in itself is basically a single target spell right now, and deals more damage to yourself, but also gives more mana back to other people. Good change. For the Priest though, we have a couple of changes here as well. Circle of Healing has gone from being 15 yards to 40 yards, and the actual multiplier has also changed right here, so it's gone up. Yeah, it's gone up by quite a bit in this case. So the multiplier has gone up, and the cost has also gone from 21% of base mana, once again base mana, not total mana, but base, to 28%, so 7% increase. The Strength of Soul. Lesser Healing, Heal, Greater Heal and Flash Heal reduces the remaining duration of Weakened Soul on targets that heal by 4 seconds. Weakened Soul is the debuff you give when you put off the shield, for example. In addition, your target of your powered shield will gain rage from taking damage, despite the damage being absorbed, and Righteous Fury will trigger from damage absorbed by your powered shield as if it were a heal. This is fantastic, because powered shield in the past would it would be weird, where warriors wouldn't really want to have the shield because they want to generate rage, and now you can generate rage through that shield. Good change. Quickly swapping over to Rogue in this case, only really one change right here, and that is Saber Slash. The ability itself hasn't been changed, but the actual energy cost of the ability has been changed slightly. In this case, it used to be 45 energy, no, it used to be 55 energy, and now it's 45. And once again, it does benefit from all talents and effects that trigger from or modify Sinister Strike. So if you have a talent to reduce the energy cost even further, you can reduce it down from 45, but the base is 45 and used to be 55. Slightly longer cooldown. Now for the Shaman, we have a bunch of changes changes here. In this case, the first one is Ancestral Guidance, which basically just heals up to 3 nearby party members in this case. That is the main thing. Now, if you go to Healing Rain, this one just has been changed to a Raining Rune. For the Shield Mastery though, you generate more mana than you used to in the past, so you can actually keep your mana up while you're tanking from the Shield Mastery, or you can even use this as any other kind of, if you're an Elemental Shaman and you're playing in the open world, you can use this if you're low on mana, but for the most part I think it's a tanking thing, and it's just making sure you don't go out of mana while you're tanking. You also have the Molten Blast, blast up to 0 enemies in a cone. That is kind of weird, don't really know what that means, but it's still gonna be an AoE thing, so it's an AoE thing that causes a high amount of threat. Now for Shamans, there are 2 main takeaways here that are really important, and that is first of all the Way of Earth. This one makes it so while your Rockbiter weapon is active on your main hand weapon, you used to deal 100% increased threat, and that is now 50%. Referring back to what we talked about at the beginning of this post, like Warlocks and Shamans now generate less passive threat, but once again they still have taunts and abilities that generate high amounts of threat, but their base threat is lowered, but once again they're still going to be good for tanking, right? But I guess Blizzard found out that their base threat was way too good, and they have reduced that from 100% to 50% in this case. You also have Shamanistic Rage. This one only used to be like a self buff. In this case it's become like a raid wide or group wide buff, which is fantastic, once again making Shamans really helpful in group scenarios or raid setups, providing utility to give mana back to people that need their mana. Once again, let's just mention a couple of classes here. You have Arcane Mages, right? You have Boomkins, maybe not Boomkins now, but still kind of Boomkins, Arcane Mages, any healers that use a lot of mana, Elemental Shamans, Shadow Priests, right? In this case, your party members within 40 yards will also receive 10% of the mana you receive this way. So Shamanistic Range generates mana back to you based on your attack power, spell power, or healing power, and your party members also get some mana back. They only get 10% of the mana you get, but let's just say you have 2 Shamans. Now it's starting to stack, because Shaman 1 can use it first, and the next Shaman can use it afterwards, or you can both use it at the same time, and you're gonna give so much mana back to the entire party. Okay, we only really have 2 more classes to talk about now, and they're really quick. First off is Warlock. This one looks like it has a bunch of changes, but it actually doesn't. The Lake of Fire and Grave Chest right here hasn't really been changed. It's only removed the Gain the Lake of Fire ability from the rune itself, and it just literally gives you the ability still. It teaches you the ability, so it's just like a moderation, I should say. If you hover over, for example, you can still see it's the same thing. If you compare the old one to the new one, it's the absolute same thing. It's just removed the actual note there for gaining the ability itself. And the same thing for Master Channeler as well. And the same thing for Shadow Bolt Volley. The only real thing that has changed for Warlocks is once again referring back to what we talked about at the beginning of the post. Less passive threat. In this case, it used to increase threat generation by 100%, and now it's 50%. That is the main change for Warlocks. Then we have Warriors. 2 kind of changes here. First of all, we have Engrave Pants consumed by Rage. This one used to give you 25% melee damage bonus for 12 seconds, and now it gives you 20% instead, so kind of a nerf. Not that big compared to the Hunter nerfs definitely, but still a really big nerf right there, from 25% to 20%. And then you have Furious Thunder. This one deals 50% increased threat, so just making it even more useful for protection warriors or tanks overall. So yeah, a bunch of buffs and nerfs to classes in Seasonal Discovery. I'm sure we're gonna get more of these before it launches. We're only a week away though, so we'll see what happens. But for now, I guess they found out some classes were way too overpowered, and I guess they found out that Warlock tanks and Shaman tanks generated way too much passive threat as well. A bunch of changes here, so hopefully you enjoyed the video, and hopefully these changes kind of helps you figure out which class you want to play, and if not, then once again I have a full video talking about which class to pick in my class picking guide coming up actually today. No, tomorrow, excuse me. That should be coming up tomorrow, so if you're still wondering which class you want to play, that guide will be coming out tomorrow, and then just combine that guide with the knowledge of which classes have been nerfed, and it should make it a little bit easier for you. I will say though, after looking at all the classes, I'm still kind of confused about what I want to play, so I'll probably be using Phase 1 to level up some classes to level 25, and try them out at like max level in Phase 1, to see how they feel. I think I'll be maining a Warlock, but once again, I have so many classes this that I want to try out. Either way, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments down below, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more Season of Discovery content. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you again very soon.